Have you ever felt like something invisible is moving through your life, quietly, slowly, but unmistakably shifting everything you once believed was permanent? You can't explain it. You can't prove it. But deep inside, you know, something is changing. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain," and it's in those very moments, when life seems uncertain, when things fall apart, when you're pulled into solitude, that the universe begins its most powerful work within you. These signs, these subtle inner awakenings, are not coincidences. They are echoes from the soul, messages from the deepest self that whisper, "You're being prepared." In this speech, we'll dive into the signs that appear just before the universe shifts your path and how to recognize them, trust them, and allow the transformation to unfold. Because once you see these signs, your life will never be the same. Subscribe to Hidden Signs and Synchronicity for more messages like this. You begin to feel like everything is coming undone. The path that once felt certain now feels like quicksand beneath your feet. You question your choices. People start leaving. Circumstances seem to collapse on top of each other like falling dominoes. At first glance, it looks like chaos. But what if I told you this was not destruction? It was sacred disruption. What if the unraveling you fear is the very beginning of the real becoming? The universe does not shift your life by asking your permission. It moves in silence, in shadows, in the depths of your being long before you notice its arrival. And when it does begin to make its move, it does so by loosening your grip on everything that was never truly yours. The job, the relationship, the identity you clung to because it gave you structure, all of it begins to fall away. Not because it was bad, but because it was too small to contain the fullness of who you are becoming. You see, the ego demands stability. It wants certainty. It clings to patterns, even the ones that hurt. But the soul, that vast, ancient force within you, it craves truth. It cannot thrive inside illusions. So the moment your life begins to shift towards something more aligned, more authentic, more whole, it often starts with a disturbance. Something is taken. Something breaks. Something once meaningful suddenly loses its taste. It feels like a betrayal, doesn't it? Like the universe has turned its back on you. But this is the illusion the ego projects, confusing the falling away of the false for the absence of love. In truth, it is through this very crumbling that love begins to move you toward what is real. Life strips you, not to shame you, but to awaken you. Because only when the old shell breaks can the soul breathe freely. And yes, you'll resist. You'll try to cling. You'll beg for things to return to the way they were. That's natural. We all do it. But look closely. The tighter you hold on, the more painful it becomes. Because what you are grasping for is already dissolving. Not to punish you, but to release you. You are not being punished. You are being invited into the unknown, into a deeper trust, into the version of you is no longer defined by fear. There's a moment in every transformation when you must walk through the fire. It doesn't matter how spiritually aware you are. It doesn't matter how much you prepare. When the universe decides it is time to shift your life, it begins by turning off the lights so you can finally see what's glowing inside you. It isolates you not to abandon you, but to create a sacred space where the noise dies down and the truth of your being can rise to the surface. People may not understand what you're going through. Even those closest to you may misinterpret your pain. Let them. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to return to the truth of yourself, and that path is often carved in solitude. If you feel like everything is falling apart, look again. It's not falling apart. It's falling into place. Only your mind can't yet see the order in the disorder, but your soul knows. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the shift begins when you stop asking why everything is breaking and start asking what is being revealed. The path to alignment is not paved in comfort. It is walked in faith. And faith is not about knowing the outcome. It is about surrendering to the process, trusting that even the pain has a purpose. Even the loss carries a seed of rebirth. So when your life begins to crumble, when the ground beneath you shakes and you feel lost in the unknown, remember this: the universe is not punishing you. It is positioning you. The life you asked for, the love, the peace, the alignment. It requires a different version of you, and sometimes that version can only emerge when everything else has been stripped away. This is not the end. This is the sacred beginning. There will come a time when the world around you starts to whisper in ways you can no longer ignore. You'll notice something subtle at first, a number that repeats, a phrase that echoes, a feeling that returns in patterns too precise to be coincidence. You'll brush it off in the beginning, as most do, but eventually the repetition grows louder, clearer, more insistent. It will feel as if the fabric of life itself is winking at you, nudging you, asking you to notice. And that's because something is aligning. The shift has already begun. The universe rarely shouts. It speaks in soft symbols, in coincidences that are not coincidence at all. These synchronicities, those seemingly random alignments of events, are not accidents. They are evidence that the inner world and outer world are mirroring each other. The more awake you become, the more you begin to see how everything is connected. You think of someone, and they call. You open a book, and it answers a question you've been silently carrying. A stranger says the very words you've been longing to hear, and you realize it wasn't random. It was orchestrated. This is the language of the soul. It is not logical, but it is deeply intelligent. And once you learn to pay attention, you start to live in a world that responds to your vibration. You no longer feel like a victim of circumstance. You become a participant on the unfolding. The signs are everywhere, but only the present can perceive them. When your mind is distracted, when your heart is closed, you miss the messages. But when you slow down, when you become still, when you trust what you feel, even before you can explain it, the universe begins to reveal its design. And here is where the magic lies, not in the events themselves, but in your awareness of them. A butterfly crossing your path may mean nothing to the eyes, but to the soul that has prayed for transformation, it is a sacred message. Repeating numbers are not just patterns on a clock. They are frequencies tuning you into something deeper. A conversation overheard in a coffee shop may hold the very sentence you needed to feel seen again. None of this is accidental. When your life is about to shift, the veil between what is seen and unseen grows thin. The invisible becomes intimate. This is not a time to question your intuition. It is a time to trust it more than ever. The mind may doubt, but the soul always knows. And the more you honor what you sense, the pull toward a person, the curiosity about a place, the sudden clarity about what you must release, the more the universe aligns its movements to support your inner world and the cosmos. But the steps become clear only when you're willing to move without needing all the answers. When synchronicities flood your life, it means you are in rhythm with something larger than yourself. It means your energy is shifting. You are beginning to live in alignment with your higher self, and the universe responds accordingly. Life no longer feels random, it feels precise. You start to realize that the universe is not somewhere out there. It is right here, moving through you, organizing the external world around your internal frequency. You do not chase signs. They come to you when you are ready. They are not proofs to convince you. They are confirmations that you already know. And sometimes they appear just before the biggest changes of your life, because your soul is preparing, because your path is activating, because you are on the verge of stepping into something you asked for, perhaps without even realizing it. So when the signs start appearing, over and over, louder and clearer, don't dismiss them. Don't call them coincidence. Pause, breathe, listen. Because the universe is speaking, and when you begin to understand its language, you realize it has been speaking to you all along. There is a moment that comes before clarity, before answers, before the visible shift begins. It is quiet, almost too quiet. Nothing around you seems to have changed, but something inside you is no longer the same. You can't explain it, not even to yourself. It's not a thought. It's not an idea. It's a sensation, like a whisper of it buried deep in your chest, calling you towards something you haven't met yet. You don't know where it's leading, but you know with a certainty beyond logic that you can't stay where you are. This is how the soul begins its migration, not with instructions, not with certainty, but with longing. A sacred restlessness. You feel it in your bones, like a quiet ache that pulses under everything. You start to question things you never questioned before. The life that once made sense no longer feels aligned. You look around at the structures you've built, the relationships, the routines, the roles, and you wonder why they no longer comfort you the way they used to. It isn't because they've changed, it's because you are changing, and the soul always outgrows what no longer reflects its truth. You'll try to make sense of it. The mind will scramble for explanations. It will search for someone to blame, something to fix, some way to return to how things used to be. But there's no going back. That door has already closed inside you. Even if nothing looks different on the outside, your inner landscape has already begun to shift. You may still go to work, still smile in conversations, still do what's expected, but underneath it all, there's a quiet voice whispering, "There's more." That voice is not here to disrupt your life, it's here to awaken it. And it doesn't shout, because the truth doesn't need to. It knows you'll hear it when you're ready. That is how the universe calls you deeper, not with chaos at first, but with an invitation to listen. You'll find yourself pulled toward unfamiliar paths, drawn to books, places, people, or thoughts that feel foreign but strangely familiar. It won't always make sense, but it will feel right. And in those moments, the soul begins to stretch. You may also find yourself withdrawing from noise, from crowds, from things that once distracted you. Solitude begins to feel sacred, not because you are isolating yourself, but because something within you needs space to rise. You are not falling apart. You are being emptied so you can receive. You are not losing energy. You are conserving it for what is to come. This stillness is not a pause. It is preparation. In this space, things may begin to fall away, not in dramatic ways, but subtly, quietly. You may stop responding to what once demanded your attention. You may no longer feel the need to explain yourself. You may stop chasing things that once defined your worth. All of it is a sign that your identity is unraveling to make space for something truer to emerge. What's coming next won't be given to you in a detailed plan. The universe rarely works that way. It offers only the next right step, illuminated by intuition and trust. And so you begin to follow the feeling, even when it leads you into the unknown. That is where the shift lives, in the unknown, the part of life that can't be mapped, only experienced. There is a certain courage in following a call you can't yet explain. It means letting go of the need for validation. It means honoring what you feel over what you're told. It means remembering that the soul always knows the way home, even when the path is unfamiliar. And when you choose to trust that inner pull, no matter how subtle or strange it may seem, you begin to walk in alignment with a destiny that has been waiting for you all along. Because sometimes the most powerful sign that your life is about to shift is not what happens around you, but what awakens within you. There are moments in life when something dear to you slips away. A relationship ends without warning. A dream you nurtured begins to dissolve. A door you were certain would open remains firmly closed. And in those moments, it feels deeply personal, as if the universe has singled you out to suffer a wound that no one else can see. You question yourself. You wonder what you did wrong. You try to retrace your steps, trying to make sense of why what once felt so meant to be has now vanished. But loss, though it often appears cruel on the surface, is rarely without purpose. The soul does not evolve through accumulation alone. It also evolves through surrender. And sometimes, the most sacred shifts begin with the most painful subtractions. What you thought you needed was only ever meant to carry you to a certain point. The love you cherished, the path you planned, the identity you wore, it served you. It shaped you, but it was never meant to stay forever. because the version of you that is emerging cannot bloom in the soil of the past. When the universe is preparing to shift your life, it often begins by removing what is no longer aligned with where you're going, not because you are being punished, but because you are being prepared. And in that preparation, what once fit begins to feel too tight. The people who once completed you begin to feel distant. The roles you've played for years start to feel hollow. Life has a way of pruning you, gently at first, then all at once. What is not rooted in truth is cut away, not to break you, but to free you. And still, you grieve, as you should. Grief is not a weakness. It is a sacred acknowledgement of what once mattered. It is a sign that your heart was open, that you were invested, that you allowed yourself to feel. But the soul knows when something is no longer in harmony with your becoming, and when the heart refuses to let go, the universe will intervene, not out of cruelty, but out of deeper love. Because it sees what you cannot. It sees what your spirit is ready for, even if your mind still clings to what is familiar. Loss is not the absence of love. It is often the doorway to deeper love. Love that is no longer tied to fear, to control, to illusion. It creates space. And though that space may ache at first, it is sacred. Something is being carved out within you so that something greater can enter. Not necessarily something louder or grander, but something truer. Something that meets the new frequency you are stepping into. The soul's evolution is not linear. It is not always gentle. It requires a shedding of the faults. And sometimes what we lose was never truly ours to begin with. It was borrowed for a season, here to teach us, to mirror us, to awaken us. And when its purpose is complete, it leaves, not because we failed, but because we're ready to carry its wisdom forward and walk alone, even if just for a while. In the silence that follows loss, in the spaces left behind by what used to be, you begin to discover yourself again. You meet the parts of you that were buried beneath the noise, beneath the attachments, beneath the distractions. And in that sacred rediscovery, you begin to realize that nothing was ever truly taken from you. It was returned to the universe, so that you could return to yourself. So when life takes something from your hands, don't rush to replace it. Don't scramble to fill the void. Stand in it, feel it fully, and listen, because the void is not empty. It is the beginning of your becoming. Sometimes, without warning, you'll begin to feel like everything around you is shifting, yet nothing on the surface seems to have changed. You still go through the same motions, speak the same words, see the same faces, but deep inside, something begins to stir. You start to crave solitude more than stimulation. You pull away from distractions, not because you are lost, but because you're being called inward. You don't fully understand it at first, but the external world begins to lose its grip on you. The need to prove yourself, to perform, to be seen, suddenly feels exhausting. Not because you are giving up, but because you are waking up. This pull inward isn't isolation, it's initiation. It is the universe gently guiding you away from noise so you can hear the soft voice within, one you may have ignored for years or perhaps never truly heard. You start to realize that all the answers you once sought outside yourself, the ones you chased in people, in achievements, in recognition, have always lived quietly within you. And for the first time, you have the courage to listen. Not to the mind's endless chatter, but to the stillness beneath it, to the knowing that doesn't need evidence, only presence. During this phase, your life might appear still from the outside, almost motionless. Friends might wonder why you're quieter, less involved. You might find it difficult to explain that you are not withdrawing out of sadness, but because you are being rearranged from the inside out. You are no longer interested in surface-level connections, hollow conversations, or playing roles that no longer fit. You crave depth, you crave honesty, you crave alignment. And the only way to find it is to walk into yourself, even if no one follows. It's not always easy. There will be moments when the silence feels heavy, when the world seems to forget you. You may question your worth in the absence of external validation. You may wonder if you're being left behind. But this is the sacred cocoon, the hidden place where transformation begins. Just as the seed must disappear before it becomes the truth, your old self must dissolve before the truth of who you are can emerge. And that unraveling begins in the quiet. The mind may resist this phase. It prefers motion over stillness, certainty over surrender. It will try to distract you with stories of lack, of loneliness, of urgency. But if you can breathe through the discomfort, if you can stay with yourself instead of running back to what's familiar, you will begin to notice something remarkable. You will start to feel more whole, not because your life is suddenly perfect, but because you are finally rooted in your own presence. And from that place, everything starts to change. The universe does not guide you inward to keep you there forever. It does so to prepare you. What is forming inside you during this time of stillness is strength, real, grounded strength, the kind that no praise or applause can create, the kind that endures when circumstances shift, the kind that allows you to move forward with clarity, not confusion. And when the time is right, you'll emerge from this quiet space not as someone who found all the answers, but as someone who became willing to live the questions. The call to go inward is not a detour, it's the path. It may not make sense to others, and at times it may not even make sense to you, but your soul knows the way. And when you honor that pull towards solitude, when you sit with yourself in silence, when you stop running and start listening, begin to hear the language of your own becoming. The shift begins not when you chase something new, but when you become still enough to receive what's already inside you. There is a strange, almost disorienting moment that happens when everything you've known starts to feel unfamiliar. It's not that your surroundings have changed, but your perception of them has. You begin to look at things, your work, your relationships, your routines, and something within you knows that what once felt right now feels out of place. The old definitions no longer fit. The roles you've played begin to dissolve. Even your dreams shift in tone, no longer driven by who you were, but shaped by who you are becoming. It's not confusion, it's evolution. This inner dissonance is not a sign of failure. It's a signal that your frequency is changing. Your spirit is no longer resonating with what once matched your lower vibration. And so, as you rise, the people, the habits, the environments that were once in harmony with you may start to fall away. Not because anything is wrong with them, but because they no longer reflect who you are now. This part of the journey is often misunderstood. People might say you're being distant or that you've changed, and they're right. You have, but not in the way they think. You're not abandoning your life. You're aligning with it. You're letting go of what was never truly you to begin with. Beliefs you absorbed from others, masks you wore to be accepted, paths you followed out of fear instead of truth. And when your energy no longer supports those illusions, they naturally begin to crumble. You don't have to force them away. They simply fall, like autumn leaves, once they've served their season. At first, this unraveling may feel like a loss. You might grieve the person you used to be, the comfort of your old rhythms, the identity you once clung to. That grief is sacred. It means you were fully present in your past. But now, you are being called forward, not to escape who you were, but to embody who you truly are. And that can only happen when you allow the unnatural to dissolve. It takes courage to let things fall apart, to stop pretending, to stop holding together what no longer holds you. But there's freedom in that fall, because the more you release, the lighter you become. The more honest you became, you start to realize that much of what you feared losing was never a reflection of your truth. It was a reflection of your attachment. And as you loosen your grip, you create space for something new to take root. Not another illusion, but something enduring, something real. Your vibration begins to attract differently, not louder, not more glamorous, but truer. Conversations shift from shallow to soulful. Relationships feel deeper, or dissolve altogether. You begin to draw in people who mirror your current frequency, not your former one. And that can feel lonely at first because the old crowd may no longer understand you, but trust that the space they leave behind is not empty. It is being prepared for those who are walking the same path of inner truth. This phase teaches you discernment. You begin to feel the difference between what drains you and what nourishes you, between what feels aligned and what feels forced. And slowly you build a life that no longer requires you to shrink. You make decisions that don't just look good from the outside, but feel good on the inside. And in doing so, you begin to walk in integrity with your own soul. What's falling away is not being taken from you, it's being returned to the world, because it's no longer part of your becoming. Let it go with grace. You do not need to explain your evolution. You do not need to apologize for outgrowing what no longer fits. Growth is not a betrayal of the past, it is a devotion to the future. Your soul is ready to claim. There comes a moment, subtle and sacred, when life begins to bring you glimpses of alignment. Those quiet moments when the inner world and the outer world begin to mirror each other. You may have been wandering in the unknown, sitting in silence, shedding layers, and grieving the loss of identities you no longer fit into. You may have let go of what you once held close and sat in the hollow echo of uncertainty. And then, without force, without warning, something starts to shift. It may not be something grand. It may be a conversation that touches your soul in a way that reminds you of who you are, a moment of peace where once there was chaos, a sense of ease in a place that used to feel heavy, or perhaps a message arrives just when you need it. A book falls off a shelf, a stranger says something profound, an opportunity you didn't chase appears. These are not accidents. These are echoes from the universe responding to your frequency. When you begin to see these signs, these synchronicities, it's not because you are suddenly being rewarded. It's because you are finally aligned with what you are always meant to receive. The outer world is reflecting back the inner work you've done in silence. What you are now attracting is not being sent to impress you. It's coming to meet the version of you that has risen in vibration, and in those moments, even if they are brief, something within you softens. You start to feel held, guided, connected to something beyond the physical, yet deeply present in the now. There is a natural order to life. When you resist it, everything feels like a struggle. When you surrender to it, the path begins to unfold with quiet grace. You no longer feel the urge to force things to happen. You begin to trust in timing that doesn't follow the clock, but follows the rhythm of the soul. And it's in that rhythm that the universe begins to deliver to you, not always what you asked for, but what you are ready for. There is a difference. Sometimes what you thought you needed was only a placeholder for what your soul actually craved. And when the right thing arrives, you recognize it, not because it dazzles you, but because it feels like home. It doesn't bring chaos, it brings clarity. It doesn't require you to perform, it invites you to be. That's how you know, because what is meant for you will never ask you to abandon yourself to have it. It will meet you at the level of your chasing your life. You'll feel like you're meeting it. This is the beginning of receiving, not from desperation, not from fear, but from alignment. You are no longer trying to convince life to give you something. You are becoming the version of you that naturally welcomes it. And this shift in energy, this embodiment of worthiness, of stillness, of clarity, is the real manifestation. Everything else simply arrives in response to that. But do not mistake this phase as the end. It is a continuation, a deepening, because what the universe gives you now, it also asks you to nurture. The signs, the gifts, the opportunities. They are not here to distract you. They are here to remind you that you're no longer living in reaction to the world. You are co-creating with it. And your life is no longer a series of accidents and efforts, but a dance between your intention and the divine's timing. And you begin to understand deeply that nothing real is rushed, that what is yours cannot miss you, and what is not meant to stay will always fall away. When you begin to see beauty in the ordinary, guidance in the mundane, and resonance in the quiet, know that the shift has already begun. The universe has heard you, and now it's speaking back. Do you believe the universe is guiding your life right now? Type yes or no in the comments. Thank you.